everybody, and thank you for joining me today. We are going to look at our weekly forecast as well as wrap up from last week here today. Today is June 3rd, and we will be proceeding with all of our normal Forex or futures markets as well as a couple Forex markets and a grain market. So let's get started. Okay, so last week we saw crude oil looking like this and looking at the really nice retest of this level here. And let's see how the levels really played out. And obviously we were looking at possibly the short move down to this demand zone and down here to the 91.18 level. So let's see what took place over the week. And this is what took place. So we can see our little bounce off of our 95.61 level. Price came down and almost touched our level down there. So really, really close. Looks like it's coming back up for a little retracement, but it's making lower lows all the way down. So it looks very, very good. And I'm thinking that we do have a possible shot of getting lower than that. So this is what's happened on the 240-minute time frame, and you can see like the little retest that's happening right now in this zone area. But will it come down from here? That is yet to be seen. The market can do anything that it wants to do. So who are we to stand in its way or to predict the future? We just want to take our setups as they come and as we see them. Last week we were looking, and that was definitely the trade to take for a really big push to the downside. On the ES market, looking at the big time frame perspective of the 4-hour chart or 240-minute, this is what we saw last week. Let's see if that will refresh just a little bit better here. Alright, this is what we were looking at last week at the money bounce happening up here at this retest, and really a good sign of rejecting to make new highs, and then it comes back down. Alright, so that's what we were looking at last week, and let's see how that kind of played out there. You can see here's the rejection, and it came back down to our next zone that we had there at the time, and it kind of wobbled around here in the middle of things, but then it went down to the zone below that, and now we're starting to bounce off of that several times. So actually, if we look at the 60-minute zone, which are part of the Apazone's MTF software, if you look up here at the top, you can see the 60-minute zones are a little bit different. They aren't all shaded in, but it does look like we have some nice little confluence down there of price action has been here several times, and it's bounced off this level a lot, so at the 1625 level. So that's kind of what we're looking at from that perspective. So if this thing does continue to drop, looking at the big 4-hour zones, we do have an aqua zone and a blue zone that we just now bounced on here. So we do have some weakness right around in this level, but looking at the 1600s and then 1592 and so on and so forth, if this thing does get some momentum to the downside. So obviously our money bounce held off of this dead zone, and it bounced there actually a few times where it just kissed the zone and then up again, kissed the zone and up, kind of deal. But now it definitely looks like we're starting to go lower here. So it could be the end of our trend to the upside. Alright, let's move over to the euro, and here's what we were looking at from last week. So we saw a real nice bounce there on the 17th of the month, and pretty much a denial of the low, or basically a failed retest, if you will, of the low there on the 23rd, and then kind of a choppy area. So by this, really failing to break the low of 517, thinking that maybe something new is going on there, and was looking really at the retest there. So let's look at what happened at that point. So we did get that denial there, and then it did do a little retest, and you'll notice that my things have shifted a little bit. That's just because the back data and some data issues that we do have on NinjaTrader. So, but the idea is that we did fail to break that again. Price came back down here, failed to break that retest here on this zone. So actually, I would take the zone, and let's just make this zone a little bit different here. I would say that this zone was actually something more like this. This zone not being down here, but kind of a little retest, if you will. So that's kind of what it looked like on the euro, and that was the balance that we were looking at. And Uh, obviously, you see how price stuttered around in here, small bar, failing to break the previous low there, and kind of doing a nice little stair step deal, and then it comes back up into the zones that we had there on the high side and breaks those with some gusto. Quick little retest to this area of consolidation, and it looks like we're going higher. So those are the two zones above us in those ranges, and we will see what happens this week. Something else to also note is on the big 6E charts, so we're talking weekly charts, do note that 27, this was a bounce on of 127, and it looks like we had our nice little retracement here. So on the bigger perspective, it looks like we could be retesting this big weekly zone at $1.34. So just keep that in mind. Okay, looking at the Russell now, we can see some interesting things coming on here. Obviously, we were talking about the retest of this brown zone here from our last week's chart. You can see the nice little retest down there, and then we were coming up, did our money bounce off of this zone, and now we're coming down. So we've completed that money bounce, and it looks like we're really just ranging in between the two supply and demand areas. Obviously, we have new fresh supply that's just been retested here, with some really big candles here. They're getting quite big in the middle of all things. So, but you can kind of see what we're looking at here. So here's supply, here's demand. Obviously, demand's been hit several times because it is a brown zone down there, and we know that's just how the zones work, because the more times it hits, the weaker the zone gets, and the more the different color of the zone will be. So it goes from aqua, blue, orange, purple, then brown. So this has really been hit a few times there. So it looks like we're coming back down here, and but right now we're kind of in the middle. But that was a real nice little kiss of that supply zone. That was really small. So we will see what happens here in the future. But if it does continue to break down, we're looking at this level down here. If we apply the hourly zones on this chart, we can actually see kind of an interesting picture. You can see what they look like, but inside that big 4-hour zone, you can kind of see where the bottom of this 60-minute level was, and also on the the other part of the big 4-hour zone, you can see that we have a 60-minute level down there. So there's actually a little overlap of a 60-minute level slash top of that 4-hour zone, and you can kind of see that that we've been ranging here in this 60-minute level. That's really big right there. So kind of interesting how those 60-minute levels look on the bigger time frames. You can also see the big 60-minute level that's up here at the top half of this zone. So I do like to use multiple time frames in my analysis, and it makes the analysis, I feel, more complete as we look at harmonics and fractal patterns in the market. So very, very cool stuff. Let's move over to corn now. This was last week's look at corn, and you can kind of see on the 4-hour time frame we were stuck in a range. So in a range anything could happen. It can break out to either side. But let's see what happened through the course of the week. All right, so it looks like that range kind of held, and looks like we came back down into well, it looks like it failed to the downside actually, so that's to be of note. But it's been really, really choppy in here. Something else to look at is this little blue line here, as well as, actually, let me turn off all these zones. These little blue lines here represent the channel that we are kind of in right now. Okay, so and this is like a daily channel type of thing, and that's kind of what I see as the channel being there. So just be aware of that. That it does kind of look like we're in an upwards channel. Um, but price looks like it's going to come back down here to retest this area down there, which is the zone and that consolidation area right in that range. So looks like we'll probably have a move to the downside as price again has failed to break the high. You know, so the little hangman red candle right there shows a really good indication of that failure. Plus, it's wrong candle type in the wrong area, making that hangman candle there. And price action just leads us to the downside in a very major way. So let's see if this move to demand does complete. If it does, then we could look at possibly this brown zone just below it. But that would be outside of the channel as far as I'm concerned. So we will see which way the channel does break, and obviously we're looking at like right around the 705 level on the bigger daily and weekly time frames. Actually, this is a daily zone up here for the high. And as we all know, as the harvest season comes closer and closer, a lot of times we do see a raise in the price. So we'll see how that all plays into things. So looking at the NASDAQ, this is what we were seeing last week here. And you can see that we just had the money bounce, and then it was falling down to our demand zone. Probably spotted that and said look for price to fall here. So let's see what has happened over the course of a week. All right. So not only did this thing fall down here, but it does look like it got a little bit choppy in the middle of the those bigger zones, and the retest of that zone a couple different times here as we see that one. That was, the zone was actually back here somewhere, something like this it looks like, and looks like we had a couple bounces off of it, and then it looks like this one kind of retested some support that this bounce created on there, and then it looks like it busted through that zone altogether to the downside, and retested the very, very low of this 4-hour zone. It's also a 60-minute zone. If we put our 60-minute zones on here, we can see some nice little confluence that we have down in this range here. So obviously very, very interesting to see where those confluences happen. You can also see the nice confluence of the 60-minute zone up here, and the couple retests that this 60-minute level has had, almost to the T. So very interesting things going on there, but it really does look like it's ranging back and forth. And we may have really had that when we saw that retest there. This may be the start of a move to the downside now. That we spotted, and if you got on short, it looks like it was a real decent play there. So. Also look at the retest of the entry that we had. If you were to play something on that area, you did get one retest. So if you moved your stops down a little bit to protect yourself after possibly taking a one-to-one or a first target, you would have gotten stopped out on that play, but it continues to fall to the downside. So that's what we are looking at here. You can kind of see we do have another blue zone underneath us, but then after that, there's nothing for quite a ways, all the way down to 2900. So be looking at those areas to come into play over the next week. Well, that pretty much concludes our look at the different markets here. So uh, don't forget to check out our blog and all the different articles that we like to write about. We also post the forecast that you're watching right now on these as well. And all kinds of wonderful and interesting things are on this website here, as far as the resources and just the overall look of support and resistance and supply and demand in our market. So hope this has been very helpful, and don't or please feel free to contact us through Skype or email. Here's the Appazone's website, and we will talk to you next week.